Section 21 of Poems of American History, the Colonial Era. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recorded by Larry Wilson. Poems of American History, the Colonial Era, Chapter 5, The Settlement of New England, Part 5. In the 4 years that followed, the worst hardships of the new plantation were outlived, and between 3,000 and 4,000 Englishmen were distributed among the 20 hamlets along and near the seashore. The fight for a foothold had been won. New England's Growth, from a fragmentary poem on New England. Famine once we had, but other things God gave us in full store, as fish and ground nuts to supply our strait, that we might learn on Providence to wait, and know by bread man lives not in his need, but by each word that doth from God proceed. But a while after plenty did come in, from his hand only who doth pardon sin, and all did flourish like the pleasant green, which in the joyful spring is to be seen. Almost 10 years we lived here alone. In other places there were few or none, for Salem was the next of any fame that began to augment New England's name. But after multitudes began to flow, more than well knew themselves where to bestow. Boston then began her roots to spread, and quickly soon she grew to be the head, not only of the Massachusetts Bay, but all trade and commerce fell in her way. And truly it was admirable to know how greatly all things here began to grow. New plantations were in each place begun, and with inhabitants were filled soon. All sorts of grain which our own land doth yield was hither brought and sown in every field, as wheat and rye, barley, oats, beans, and peas. Here all thrive, and they profit from them raise. All sorts of roots and herbs in gardens grow, parsnips, carrots, turnips, or what you'll sow, onions, melons, cucumbers, radishes, skirrets, beets, coleworts, and fair cabbages. Here grow fine flowers many, and 'mongst those the fair white lily and sweet fragrant rose. Many good wholesome berries here you'll find, fit for man's use almost of every kind. Pears, apples, cherries, plums, quinces, and peach, and now no dainties, you may have of each. Nuts and grapes of several sorts are here, and if you will take the pains them to seek for. William Bradford. There remained but one danger, the Indians, and most feared of all were the Pequots, who dwelt just west of what is now Rhode Island, and in 1637 began open hostilities. A force of about 100 men marched against the principal Pequot stronghold, a palisaded village which stood on a hilltop near the Mystic. The attack was made on the night of May 25th, 1637. The Indians were taken by surprise. Their thatched houses were set on fire, and of the 600 or 700 persons in the village, scarcely one escaped. The Assault on the Fortress, from The Destruction of the Pequods, May 25th, 1637. Through verdant banks where Thames branches glide, long held the Pequods an extensive sway, bold, savage, fierce of arms and glorious pride, and bidding all the circling realms obey. Jealous, they saw the tribes beyond the sea plant in their climes, and towns and cities rise, ascending castles, foreign flags display, mysterious art new scenes of life devise, and steeds insult the plains, and cannon rend the skies. The rising clouds the savage chief descried, and round the forest bade his heroes arm. To arms the painted warriors proudly hied, and through surrounding nations rung the alarm. The nations heard, but smiled to see the storm, with ruin fraught, O'er Pequod mountains driven, and felt infernal joy the bosom warm, to see the light hang o'er the skirts of even, and other suns arise, to gild a kinder heaven. Swift to the Pequod fortress Mason sped, far in the wildering woods' impervious gloom, a lonely castle, brown with twilight dread, where oft the embowelled captive met his doom, and frequent heaved around the hollowed tomb, scalps hung in rows, and withering bones were strewed, where, round the broiling babe, fresh from the womb, with howls of the powwow filled the dark abode, and screams and midnight prayers invoked the evil god. But now no awful rites, nor potent spell, to silence charm the peals of coming war, are told the dread recesses of the dell, where glowing Mason had led his bands from afar. No spirit buoyant on his airy car controlled the whirlwind of invading fight, deep dyed in blood, dun evening's falling star sent sad o'er western hills its parting light, and no returning morn dispersed the long, dark night. On the drear walls a sudden splendor glowed. There Mason shone, and there his veterans poured. Anew the hero claimed the fiends of blood, while answering storms of arrows round him showered, and the war scream the ear with anguish gored. Alone he burst the gate. The forest round re-echoed death, the peal of onset roared. In rushed the squadrons. Earth in blood was drowned, and gloomy spirits fled, and corses hid the ground. Not long in dubious flight the host had striven, when, kindled by the musket's potent flame, in clouds and fire the castle rose to heaven, and gloomed the world with melancholy beam. Then hoarser groans with deeper anguish came, and fiercer fight the keen assault repelled. Nor e'en these ills the savage breast could tame. Like hell's deep caves the hideous region yelled, till death and sweeping fire laid waste the hostile field. Timothy Dwight. Sassacus, the Pequod chief, escaped and sought refuge with the Mohawks, but was slain by them. Death Song, 1673. Great Sassacus fled from the eastern shores, where the sun first shines and the great sea roars. For the white men came from the world afar, and their fury burnt like the bison's star. His sannops were slain by their thunder's power, and his children fell like the star-eyed flower. His wigwams were burnt by the white man's flame, and the home of his youth has a stranger name. His ancestors once was our countryman's foe, and the arrow was placed in the new-strung bow. The wild deer ranged through the forest free, while we fought with his tribe by the distant sea. But the foe never came to the Mohawk's tent, with his hair untied and his bow unbent, and found not the blood of the wild deer shed, and the calumet lit, and the bearskin bed. But sing ye the death song, and kindle the pine, and bid its broad light like his valor to shine. Then raise high his pile by our warriors' heaps, and tell to his tribe that his murderer sleeps. Alonzo Lewis. Our Country. On primal rocks she wrote her name. Her towers were reared on holy graves. The golden seed that bore her came swift-winged with prayer o'er ocean waves. The forest bowed his solemn crest, and open flung his sylvan doors. Meek rivers led the appointed guest to clasp the wide embracing shores, till fold by fold the broidered land to swell her virgin vestments grew, while sages, strong in heart and hand, her virtue's fiery girdle drew. O exile of the wrath of kings! O pilgrim ark of liberty! The refuge of divinest things, their record must abide in thee. First in the glories of thy front let the crown jewelled truth be found. Thy right hand fling with generous wont love's unhappy chain to farthest bound. Let justice, with the faultless scales, hold fast the worship of thy sons. Thy commerce spread her shining sails where no dark tide of rapine runs. So link thy ways to those of God, so follow firm the heavenly laws, that stars may greet thee, warrior browed, and storm sped angels hail thy cause. O Lord, the measure of our prayers, hope of the world in grief and wrong, be thine the tribute of the years, the gift of faith, the crown of song. Julia Ward Howe. End of section 21.